The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.
Welcome to Newsmax TV. I'm Kathleen Walter. We're on the phone with Cleta Mitchell, one of Washington's most respected elections attorneys and a partner with a law firm, Foley and Lardner. Ms. Mitchell has been on the board of the NRA and works with dozens of conservative organizations and candidates. And Ms. Mitchell, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, Kathleen. Nice to be with you as always.
The Washington Post is reporting today that D.C. officials of the IRS were involved in the improper harassment and IRS investigations of conservative organizations. If this is true, it puts the lie to the IRS claims that this was a low-level matter that emanated from the Cincinnati field office. Do you believe the Washington Post story is correct and that high-ranking IRS officials were involved out of Washington?
Well, yes, because actually I'm the one who gave the Washington Post a copy of the letter that memorialized a letter that I had written to a Cincinnati IRS agent in November of 2011, in which I memorialized the conversation that he and I had, in which he told me that the application of True the Vote, a 501c3 group, and their companion C4 organization, King Street Patriots, that both of those applications, while they were assigned to Cincinnati, they were actually being processed and ultimately approved or denied in Washington.
How many conservative organizations that you represent or that you know of were probed by the IRS?
Well, I think that there were nearly 100 groups across the country who got a very egregious set of letters from the IRS that were almost identical, and they came from offices all over the country. So I know of at least 85 to 90, maybe more organizations. If they had the name Tea Party, or if they had the word Patriots, or if their mission was smaller government or study the Constitution, believe it or not, that would cause the IRS to say, oh, we better investigate these groups.
Mm-hmm. Now, the IRS has said that these organizations only had the names Patriot or Tea Party in their organizational names. Is this true for your clients, or were there other trigger words?
Oh, not only were there trigger words, but the statement of purpose. If an organization, a group of citizens said that they wanted to band together to promote smaller government, that was a trigger that would cause them to fall into the IRS trap. If they said they wanted to work on having the government adhere to the Constitution, that would trigger IRS extra scrutiny. Mm-hmm. So it is. If the group was organized to fight against Obamacare, I had two clients who all they did was fight about Obamacare, grassroots lobbying against Obamacare. That triggered additional IRS scrutiny. And one of the things everybody needs to understand is these organizations still do not have their letters of determination from the IRS. After 3 and 4 years, they still don't have it.
Cleta, have any of your clients gone public yet about the improper IRS treatment? And can you tell us about them and what they were subjected to?
Well, the one yes, one of my clients, actually a C3 and a C4 companion affiliated group, True the Vote from Houston, and its president, Catherine Engelbrecht, have been so brave that they're willing to go public, and King Street Patriots is their companion 501c4. Both of them have been subjected to incredible scrutiny, voluminous requests for information, documents, almost like having to be audited before they even are exempt organizations. And in addition to that, Catherine Engelbrecht, once she signed as president of these groups and submitted her application to the IRS, since then, she and her husband have been targeted by the IRS for a personal audit of their personal tax returns, and their company, their family business, has been visited by 3 different government agencies, federal government agencies, whose representatives told them while they were there, we're not really sure why we were here. We were just directed to come here and inspect you. And also, I know of agents around the country, IRS, groups that have applied for IRS status who've had, or Tea Party groups, who have had FBI agents surprise visit and want to talk to them about what the organization was doing.
Cleta, President Obama insists that he was not involved, nor the White House, in the IRS activities. Do you believe him?
No, I don't. I think that I've thought for some time that this is politically motivated, and that's the reason it was happening. And as I said, I've been doing this for more than 20 years, and I've never seen anything like this until 2009, 2010. And the only thing that changed was we had a different administration. And I believe that something happened in terms of trying to, we know that the White House used HHS, the Department of HHS, to try to silence critics about Obamacare. So if we know that they used HHS, why wouldn't they also use the IRS or other federal agencies to try to silence political critics?
Cleta, can you give us some insight into Congress? Has Congress been helpful in uncovering this?
They've been very helpful, but the fact is the IRS has lied to and covered up, even to the members of Congress. Senator Hatch has been terrific. Congressman Bustani, who is the chairman of the Ways and Means Subcommittee on Oversight of the IRS, I've dealt with their staff for over a year, and they've submitted numerous questions and letters to the IRS. The problem is they've had hearings. The IRS commissioner basically lied to the Congress last year when he appeared before Congress, and they asked him about this targeted conservative groups, and he said it wasn't true. Well, now we find out, yes, it was true. They may try to say it was low-level people. It was not low-level people. They weren't in Cincinnati. It was being directed out of Washington, and I have them on record saying that.
Cleta, why, in your opinion, did the IRS admit to improperly auditing conservatives?
Well, there's a meeting every year, which happened last Friday, at which the head of the exempt organizations unit of the IRS always appears. And what happened last Friday was that somebody asked her about it, and she knew that the Inspector General of the IRS was getting ready to issue a report, which is public. And so she really had no option but to at least acknowledge in advance of the IG's report being issued, which could come out any day. The summary's already been released, and it proves that there indeed was a targeting. So she really had no choice but to say something, although I think what she said is not true.
Do you believe any crimes were committed by the IRS or other officials?
Well, it's a violation of federal law and a criminal offense to misuse information submitted by a taxpayer or an entity to anybody who submits anything to the IRS. The IRS agents are limited in what they can do with it, the scope of what they can say and do with it. And so clearly, I think that the federal law has been broken.
Do you believe that if the White House or other Obama officials were involved, that this could be an impeachable offense?
Well, it certainly was for Richard Nixon 40 years ago this week. Isn't that ironic?
Very
ironic. The
ironic.
House of Representatives passed articles of impeachment against President Richard Nixon 40 years ago this week on May 18th, and one of those was misuse of the IRS to go after political enemies.
Cleta, last question for you. Is Congress planning to have major hearings on this? What are you hearing?
Yes, both the Senate Finance Committee, Chairman Baucus, who's a Democrat, by the way, announced yesterday the Senate Finance Committee will hold hearings, and the House Ways and Means Subcommittee on the IRS will hold a hearing on Friday of this week. So they're going to continue to work on this until they get to the bottom of it.
All right, Cleta Mitchell, thanks for joining us today, and thank you so much for sharing with us all your insight.
You're welcome, and thank you.
And thank you for watching Newsmax TV.
The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.